So what we want to do is create a quadratic equation, which is a parabola, which will actually pass through these three coordinates on an xy plane. We need to write an equation, a quadratic equation. And what does a quadratic equation look like? Quadratic equation looks like y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That is a quadratic equation in standard form. So we need to write an equation that looks like this, but we don't know the a, the b, or the c. What do we know? We know 3 points. What are those 3 points? Negative 2, 6, which is really a x and a y value. We have 0, negative 6, which is another x and a y value. And we have 3, negative 9, which is another x and a y value. So in math, you take what you know to find out what you don't know. So what do we know? We know a bunch of x and y values. So I'm going to create equations based on those points, on those x and y values. So I'm going to take a look at my first x and y value of negative 2 and 6, and I'm going to plug them into x and y on my standard form quadratic trinomial function right there. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So when I plug in 6 for y, it's going to say 6 equals, and we have a times x squared plus b times x plus c. The thing is, what is x? X is negative 2 according to our first point. So I put in a negative 2 right there in place of x. And that's our first equation. Let me go to my next equation, or from my next point, which is 0 for x and negative 6 for y. So I'm going to put a negative 6 on the y place, and then equals, and then a times x, but x is 0 in this second point, plus b times x, which is still 0, plus c. And for my third point, let me go for a different color here. I want to take my 3, which is x, and my negative 9, which is y, and plug them in. So instead of y, I have negative 9 equals a times x, which is 3 in this case, squared, plus b times x, which is still 3 in this case, plus c. Is everybody with me? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a 3 by 3 system. It just looks ugly. It's a little unorganized. We're used to seeing all the numeric answers on this side, and we're also used to simplifying these. So let's actually go through and do that. My first equation, I'm going to end up with a 4a and then minus 2b and then plus c and then equals 6. We put the equals 6 on the other side to make it nice and neat the way we're used to. Let's move on to the next equation. And what do I have? What's 0 squared? 0. And then times a, it's going to be 0. If you want, you could write it as 0a, but you don't even need that, right? If you go b times 0, you could write it as 0b if you want, but that's going to be 0. It's not even there. So what we really have is a plus c equaling the negative 6 that was on the left side. Does that make sense to everybody? So here's the truth. These guys right here they're not even there. In other words, that second equation is really an answer already, c equals negative 6. Let's do the third equation. So we're really going to have a 9a. We're going to have a plus 3b. And we're going to have a plus c equals negative 9. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the new 3 by 3 system that we're going to be solving. But it's even easier because that blue equation is not even a 3-variable equation. It's just c equals negative 6. So technically, we already have an answer that c equals negative 6. So let me do that. Let me just write this down. C equals negative 6. That is a solution already. That is the ugliest 6 I've ever done.
And that's only if it equals 0?
That's only when x equals 0. When you plug it in, everything cancels except for c. So you have c equals a number already. Okay, so what we need to do if we still pretend it's a 3 by 3 system, what we need to do is combine two equations to get a variable to cancel, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I'm going to use the red one and the green one. I'm going to use A and C if we want to label them. A, B, C. Okay, so I'm going to use A and C. And what variable do you think would be good to cancel?
Oh, C because you
Yeah.
just don't
Not C. Okay, you do not. Like if we cancel out this C with this C, we're going to get a variable equation that's an AB equation, right? An equation with A's and B's. And since we already know the answer of C, we want to take this C and plug it into C. So you don't want C to disappear. You do not want C to eliminate. So what we are going to do is cancel out either A's or B's. So I'm going to cancel out B's. How am I going to do that? Multiply the A by what? So we're going to write 3A, and that'll be 12A minus 6B plus 3C equals 18. Okay, and what are we going to do to the C equation? Multiply everything by 2. Okay, so if we multiply everything by 2 on the C equation, we'll have 18A, we'll have positive 6B, and we'll have positive 2C, and we'll get negative 18. Is that right? That's an ugly negative sign. I apologize. And I didn't write the note down right here. 2 times C. So is everybody? So we're going to combine these lines now, and the 6's cancel. You end up with 30A plus 5C equals 0. And now what we're going to do is take the C value that we have over here and plug it in. So we're going to have the new equation that says 30A plus 5 times the negative 6 that we knew that C was from the beginning equals 0, which means 30A minus 30 equals 0. And if we take this work to the side, so we're going to have 30A equals 30. If you move that negative 30 over to the other side, which means that A equals 1. So we have A equals 1, we have C equals 6. Right here, C equals 6, A equals 1. So we need the B value. And how do we find the B value? Substitute it into any equation you want. And I'm going to go for the top one, A. So I'm going to end up with 4A, which is 4 times 1, minus 2 times B, which we don't know B yet. And we also have plus C, which is, we already know C is negative 6. And it should equal 6, correct? So it should equal 6. So we're really going to have 4 minus 2b minus 6 equals 6, which means negative 2b minus 2 equals 6, which means negative 2b equals 8, which means b equals negative 4. So ladies and gentlemen, we have our 3 answers. We have A equals 1, B equals negative 4, and C equals negative 6. What really matters is that we write it in the correct format. So my final equation is going to be y equals ax squared. So that's a 1x squared. You don't even need to write the 1. plus bx, which is a minus 4x, plus c, which is a minus 6. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the quadratic equation that produces the parabola that crosses through those three original points.